Morning. We formed a quorum and it's also the appointed time. May I call the meeting to order? The first thing on the agenda is information papers issued since the last meeting. We don't have any. Item 2, date of our next meeting and items for discussion. The October regular meeting will be held on the 17th of the month at 2:30 p.m. There are 2 suggestions from the administration. 1, progress report on research and development centers. B, promotion of inward investment. Members, do you agree or do you have any objection to these 2 items? If not, that will be our agenda items for the next meeting. The third item is latest developments of Hong Kong Science Park and InnoParks. Please invite the administration to join us. May I remind members that we are hosting a lunch today, so we have to be seated by 12:45. Hopefully we can end before 12:30 today. Welcome representatives from the administration and also the Science and Technology Park Corporation. When you're ready, Under Secretary. I'm very pleased to be able to report to you the latest development of the Science and Technology Park. They have been providing one-stop support services, including the incubation of startups and also companies, and also the nurturing of INT talents. Now there are over 1,300 enterprises there with over 19,000 employees, 13,000 of which are R&D personnel, and 5 unicorns have been groomed. In the past year, the corporation has launched a number of measures to provide startups at different stages of development with resources and support and also financial support. And it has also been popularizing science so as to boost the development of INT in Hong Kong. I will now give the floor to Mr. Albert Wong, Chief Executive Officer of the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation, to brief you on the latest. Now, our science park is at Pak Shek Kok with an area of 22 hectares. And for InnoParks, we have 3 in Tai Po, Chung Kwan O, and Yuen Long, and there is also the Shenzhen branch in Shenzhen and 400,000 square meters of land, and the to create value. Now, as said by the Undersecretary, we have employed over 20,000 employees, 13,000 of which are R&D personnel, because for tenants and startups, they must have half of their staff engaged in R&D. This requirement has been in place for many years. For startups in our incubators, we have 800 or so, including those at a very early stage of startup, some at a later stage. Incubation projects. There are now more people trying to set up startups. Now, in we have over 180,000 enterprises employing 28,000 employees. The utilization over 90%. And for our corporate venture fund, $1 billion. We have invested in 28 projects, and we have attracted 108% programs, or 300 plus, and we have found $80.9 billion of investment fund for the park. Now, we have a shared laboratory. We have just started a drug safety center, testing center, and accredited cell therapy. We have expanded our biobank. We have it be accredited. And we are starting our second SDP. It will be completed by end of next year. So these are services we provide. We have lean launches to help students and professors how to accreditation, and if they're really interested, they can join our incubation peer program with over 300 teams. We provide mentors, and then we have also we choose the best performing 10 odd companies for acceleration for in-depth training. So there are 7 roles are RIF, so innovation to parks, and that is to provide shared labs in drug we provide, from nurturing startups to supporting technology enterprises and investing in technology. Out of Hong Kong, over 100 interns have started their programs in our park. They are working with us, and we have also expanded the nurturing of I&D. All over the world for management training program in Hong Kong. This is the Technology Leaders of Tomorrow program. Now we come to the InnoParks. As mentioned, over 93 backup. And in Taipo, the medical accessories resilience supply center is now full. It's more or less complete. We are doing the fitting out work, and we have industrialization 2.0 and this will provide a very advanced working area with clean rooms. You can produce development of the country. You might have heard that in Futian we have a new branch. In the past 3 years, over 20,000 square meters of floor space, and building B with most outstanding enterprises and talents to come to the branch. And I let Express. This is to assist enterprises working in the park to expand their business northwards and south. Have to declare interest. I am a director of the Science and Technology declaration of interest. I have to commend the Science Park as an important infrastructure for INT in Hong Kong, from nurturing of June. He spent half a day at Science Park. I understand that one of the directions of the Science Park is in A to raise over $130 billion in Hong Kong. I'd like to know how many of those are developing in $1,000 square meters of space in GB and Express. Apart from Futian, I'd like to know whether
Well, relating to Section 18A, how many of such companies have listed in Hong Kong? Well, in general, most that have medical laboratories. So there aren't that many who came here on Section 18A now. many cities are interested in us, including Nansha, Qianhai, Zhejiang, Suzhou. Expect there are teething issues, and once we have drawn on such experience, will develop Paragraph 7 is about the rental situation of the science park. Well, but I heard from the industry that many of the racial in future. Now, paragraph 19. And for Mars Center, it's also quite high, 96%. However, for DT Hub and AMC, they are you still trying to introduce other medical enterprises? While you do see a low technology enterprises in Science Park. Now, those that are subsidized by the incubator program. The first year it is rent free, and for the second and third years they can pay half. Or a period for their decorations. Before I answer the second question, I would like to add for these subsidized enterprises, if they are public R&D organizations or they are complementing the ecosystem, and they have injected vitality. Thank you, Chair. Dr. Yu, please. Chair, in relation to and early 2021 that has started, and AMC has only started occupancy rate, we would say. We have in moving into AMCs because they have more facilities compared to now. Mass centers are indeed almost saturated. Into AMCs as well. Next, Mr. Shen Hailong, I would like to first operation for having an over 90% occupancy rates for all three. Congratulate on your achievements. Now, this corporation, it was set up 22 years ago. There's no requirement. There's a requirement that it allow 50% changes in the industry. Now, I have worked in the science park for 7 years. Provided to enterprises in the science park because by enterprises in the science park. Also, from my observations for enterprises, commercialize their ideas. So apart from giving that they can commercialize their products. Now, when we're talking about a loop or Shenzhen, now the Shenzhen government has policy support for enterprises in the InnoParks in the loop. In-depth knowledge of the policies and think about drafting up it was said earlier whether there is a need to amend the legislation. I would say considering that there is a ratio set for been providing support in terms of commercialization and rolling out of such InnoParks because the enterprises are more focused on advanced manufacturing has made a good suggestion that government departments should adopt more of the products or investors, industry stakeholders, public organizations, etc. So as you have no products for the department, and these agree every month or so we will have meetings training of talent for R&D talent or entrepreneur they have trial points providing training related to CE on policies applicable to enterprises in the loop to global. Thank you. Next, Professor William Wong. I want to ask about paragraph 12. Provide a youth startup internship program that lasted for 3 to 6 months, providing internship also, I want to ask if the internship program will be extended to the Shenzhen branch of the science. Now, Science Park has gone to many places, such as mainland United States. More about the results. My third question is on paragraph 20. for electronic products and related industries, and they will move in starting from the third quarter of 2020. Confident that you'll be able to attract enterprises. Also, it was said in the policy address that this Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation Technology Park. I believe they are operating
suggestions. I will give a brief response and the CEO can supplement. Whether it will be regularized, that will depend on the HYAB, but as said by the CEO, it was more INT participation for students. And the second question is about objective. We are attracting strategic enterprises in the 4 core areas. Their own, and some we have reached out to them ourselves. So under one country, two systems with we have got 20 strategic enterprises who have already come or planning to come to Hong Kong. The CEO The MEC is expected to be completed in August. The MEC will allow the trying out of INT ideas to full production. They need much more space, not just those available at MEC, so we have to identify there is a company, a corporation, which has very close liaison with the science the board of director of the company is chaired by the will report the progress at that company to their own board. So clear explanation. Now, for the Youth Startup Internship Program, we want to provide opportunities for our students Chai AB is responsible for youth work. We have already covered over 100 tertiary students. Takes time to make a decision, so we will start with smaller companies, and we're also discussing mature. For instance, I have to look at the business case and whether there is a business need. We are really UI. They've expressed the interest to operate at MEC. We have regarding Section 18.8, there are 3 instead of 1 companies. Thank you. Next. Started operation in 2019, and yet the occupancy rate is only 50. According to Dr. Sun, land is a problem. Will you use the corporation? As at last September, 11 sites are still idle. Some have been idle for more. 4 in InnoParks. I understand that all InnoParks would reserve land for further expansion. On the one hand, we're saying that we don't have any land for the industry, and yet we have seen sites left idle for over 10 years. I'd like to know whether the information is correct or not, or are there reasons behind the current situation. Last year, it was rude. Now, for enterprise operating in Zhangquanou InnoPark, it was accused, or it has allegedly breached its terms. It has sublet part of its space to a subtenant, and I think this is against our operating principles. What mechanism does the science park have to ensure that your tenants make use of space according to the terms of the lease? Thank you. I will briefly respond, and the science park can supplement. First, on the DT hub. As Dr. Hong said, now because of the epidemic, we have seen uncertainties in the global economy. Now we are very proactively boosting the overall occupancy rates. But we can report to members that since we've launched the INT blueprint, choosing AI and also data industry as our future directions of development, many enterprises have approached us. They do not just come on their own, but they will bring a cluster of companies covering the up, mid, and downstream operations. As said by the CEO, it takes time for the negotiations to complete, and they have to consider the overall supporting features as well, but our plan is to boost the occupancy rate. We are doing a study. Hopefully, we can do it in early next year, covering the technology, the mode of and the site, because it may not be over 1,000 P. It may start just a few hundred hub, because the supercomputing center will be very demanding. So the DT hub itself may not be the most appropriate location. For details, I will invite the CEO to supplement. As for idle sites, we have to understand that the sites are not really idle as such. Rather, we are discussing with many enterprises if all the sites are ongoing with many enterprises. Can I invite the CEO to supplement? Now for the DT, it is different from ordinary offices. It has got optic fiber provision. The power supply capacity may not be at the level supercomputing center, but at least it will be sufficient for a super service, etc. The provision will identify suitable companies to take up space of the DT hub. We will not lease out the or rent out the space. The hub. The second question is open land available. Companies. For Yuen Long and Tai Po, in Yuen Long we have got a few sites. We have received an oversubscription of expression of interest. That is expression of interest. Making available land to promote reindustrialization. Enterprises must investment and high value to be added, and new production technology, and also R&D. R&D is not the satisfied, then they will be supported. As regards our litigation with, it is not in our InnoPark, rather it is outside our InnoPark. The court judgment is such that we have to review the enterprise, and the court has not ruled that there is any down by the court. And what action will we take if irregularities are found among our we do monitor their activity. For a tenant to move into our park, we do not sign the tenancy agreement first. There must be an agreement, and a tenancy agreement will only be granted if they have done the following three things: investment in construction of buildings, and second, investment in equipment, and third, when operation has started. If they can fulfill these three conditions, then a proper tenancy agreement will be signed. If not, we will re-enter the site. So this is our monitoring at a point of entry into our park. Secondly, after they have started operation, we have annual inspections. If any irregularity is found during inspection, we do the following three things. First, we will ask the tenant to clarify or to explain the irregularities. Now, if it is substantiated, if the irregularity is substantiated, and if there is no reasonable explanation from the tenant, we will issue a notice of breach. Rectification within a certain period of time. If the situation continues, then legal procedures to re-enter the site. In the past few years, we have re-entered some sites through. So this is our day-to-day work in terms of our monitoring and enforcement.
Next, Mr. It said that the InnoParks in Tai Po, Yuen Long, and Tseung Kwan O have a total area of about 217 hectares. I want to occupied. Now, in relation to the mass centers, as at May 2023, stands at 90%. For AMCs, it's just 44%. So certain enterprises of certain industries cannot rent, say, a place at the mass center where you move other centers such as the AMCs, and then you can reassign them in future. It was also said that in 2018, 800 millions have been injected into the corporation. Approximately $8.7 billion have been earmarked for specific purposes now. I think only $1.3 billion is left for their own deployment. Now, I think the injections are to be made for innovation and technology purposes. From paragraphs 7 and 8, it is said that the expansion works will be done in 2025. There is still great demand for spaces in Science Park. Do you expect that it would satisfy the demand of the spaces by the works, and when will it get saturated again? Thank you for your question. In relation to the occupancy rates of So right now, the InnoParks occupancy rates are 95% in Tai Po, 91% in Yuen Long, and 92% in Tseung Kwan O. When we talk about AMCs, because the occupancy rate is just 44%, you asked whether certain enterprises interested in mass centers can be moved to AMCs. Now, the floor area is 18,600 square meters, and the Mars Center is actually 110,000 square meters, and there are many enterprises who have moved into the AMCs, including medical satellites, commercial and civil use satellites, advanced materials, and so on. During our discussions, different enterprises, based on their characteristics and what hardware they need in terms of facilities, will select which center they would like to move into. Now, they are very interested in AMCs because they have stringent standards in relation to ventilation and the level height. There are also clean rooms, logistics facilities, and so these facilities can facilitate advanced enterprises in that they can just move in and start manufacturing, so that can lower their costs as well. So this corporation has been talking to enterprises of advanced manufacturing. As members have said, right now the bottleneck is with land because we do not have enough land, because certain enterprises may want bigger land for their own factories. They may need tens of thousands of square meters. And right now, we have $1.3 billion left, as the members suggested. We will the other part of the question. With the works completed in, we have trouble identifying other sites for our expansion. Right now, we only have this. But we have 3 members who haven't asked for the first round. I would suggest that members should only ask. Well, I originally had 10 questions, but now I'll only ask 2. Now, the administration out various talent programs. I really appreciate that. Now, there is this. I want to ask if it is popular among and whether they would really join the industry after the program, the Technology Leaders of Tomorrow program. So as Mr. Wong said recently in an interview, that there are 2,000 over the past year. It is said in the paper that the corporation has gone to the United States mainland and Technology Leaders of Tomorrow program. It is an elite program. There are only 8 to 10 talents program, really, and many enterprises are interested in retaining, but not a lot of them. We have also training from, say, the VTC and they're very interested in tech. I would say that at most times there are 1,000 vacancies, so that we would like to provide support in terms of accommodation and other facilitating measures. Whether it's and we have been actively trying to recruit talent. Indeed, there is a shortage of talent. Schools to produce more talent, so we've been working on that. Is it hard to recruit talent from are interested? We've already hired 3 or 4 of them, but whether they want to move to Thank you. Next, Mr. Dennis Leung. Well, I study would be conducted. When will the feasibility study be completed? Because if there's a significant delay, that would not be desirable. In fact, on the officials, they have wrote out measures to enterprises would not have to pay much rent for stationing their offices in create more job opportunities. If we do not have such low tech experience, regard. If there is, do you have any schedule? Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Conducting a feasibility study. We expect it to be completed at the end of this year. We are moving all of these into account. Many enterprises are interested, but we do not have enough land, so we are acting. For this term of government, it is an innovative initiative to have industry policy sites. It's not just about how much rent you're paying. We also have to consider the value and contribution payments and so on, and whether, as you said, it is very important whether they can help train talent. Or academics here, or whether they can create some strategic needs of the country. We have a comprehensive mechanism have been directed tenders or targeted tenders to make sure Hong Kong remains competitive. So we're not just trying to with the recruitment of talent, the government, including the corporation, in can be created by the enterprises, how much talent can be attracted, and how much talent and primary schools. We have different schemes, including those in universities. Make sure employers can train the right talent for Hong Kong when introduced. Retained. We also want to know whether they can train local talent. We've also been talking to the FTC.
Chair, I'm pleased to see that, or rather, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan. I'm very important INT basis of Hong Kong. I have two questions. The first is advanced manufacturing. Occupancy rate of our AMC is about 40-odd%. That is less than half. I'd like to know manufacturing center and a mass center, they have much higher occupancy rates. So would that cause you to defer the second AMC? Details. Secondly, please be concise. Land to start the Sumchun branch of the Science Park. I'd like to know the number of enterprises operating there. The loop, will you change your plan? At first, it was planned to be wholly given to the Shamjam branch of the Science Park. Please be concise, because for the first question, many members have asked similar questions. The occupancy rate of AMC is now 44%. Now for the DD 18,000 square meters, and for MEC over 30,000 square meters. For AMC is close to and we want to target an advanced manufacturing industry emerging be made in Hong Kong. We are now attracting such business to Hong Kong. 1 or 2 years back because back for the leasing of AMC. Now many enterprises have taken the initiative to approach us, and we have do the same. See in later years, that's a very clear objective. Therefore, we have to speed up the have different positionings. Centene, Technopole, and a single proprietor enterprise, then they need their own space. And for AMC, it is a multi-story building. It can be rented out. Branch. Many enterprises have entered Samcham Park, including AI and data. Our plan is to accommodate 40 odd enterprises. By early next year, they should be operating in Samcham branch. I'm afraid we really have to start the second item, otherwise we cannot reprovision our. And so I have to end the discussion of this paper now. Thank you. Please invite officials for the second item to join us.
Now,
may I remind members that if you're direct or indirect pecuniary interest in this item, OP 83A, and declare the nature of the conflict before you speak, and may I draw your attention voting on an item where you have a direct pecuniary interest, because voting is required for this item. Let us welcome the administration now. Under Secretary, we have to wrap up by 12:30 today, so please be very Fire Services Department. I'd like to brief members on the reprovisioning of the policy address. It was first suggested that the Wan Chai offices and also the fire station will be relocated. LegCo, 9 new government building projects are being constructed for relocation of the government offices there, and also the court. We have to start reprovisioning of the Kong Wan Fire Station as soon as possible to pave the way for the Wan Chai North redevelopment project. We propose to relocate the site to a junction, Pier Street and Long Hop Street, so that we can cope with the demand from the new offices and new development there. Now we will take this opportunity to upgrade the new fire station. Apart from the standard provision, we will have an interdepartmental command post and a high command post. And the FSD Hong Kong licensing office will also be housed here so as to maximize the site. Now, to enhance its capability, there will be a community life support training center there, and there will also be an upgrade public open space for public enjoyment. It will be pet inclusive. We have already consulted the development planning and They have no objection. The Town Plan Board has already approved the rezoning application. The 14th Five-Year Plan has given its support. Well, Convention Center. Now, with the easing of the industry has recovered faster than expected. We hope that members can support our proposal. With your support, we are going to submit a funding application to the PWSC and the FC the fourth quarter of this year. Thank you. Again, up to 2 questions. Otherwise, we can't vote on this item by 12:25. Mr. Robert Lee, we support the reprovisioning project. According to the paper, we have seen revival of the mice industry and important to Hong Kong as an world trading center. It's also important to our positioning in the 7 remaining centers. We have seen world organizations having major events in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is at the heart of the city, and many members of the business sector have found it difficult to identify venues for their events. Now, in Central, we have a pedestrian walkways. Will we have similar facilities here to enhance the experience of exhibitors and visitors to between these places? So can you have pedestrian walkways? Now, the old and new areas are quite technical data to see whether at the new location the FS emergencies just as quickly. Thank you. The first question. We will have redevelopment project. The design is being finalized. When we went to the Town Planning Board, it was mentioned that in the old Hong Kong CC and the new areas, there will be pedestrian that visitors can access different parts of the North Wan Chai elements. Now, our performance pledges that within 2.5% of the cases, we will be able to arrive within 6.5 minutes in built-up areas. For other remote areas, within 12 minutes. Hopefully, we can still achieve 92.5%. Current site is just a few meters away. We and our conclusion is we'll be able to retain our current level of service. Be just the same.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. I support the proposal, first of all. And over all these years, we've been striving to expand the convention and exhibition. Finally achieve that, and this should consolidate Hong Kong's status as a convention. The vicinity of the fire station, the transport situation specifically, because there is often traffic congestion in the area. When there is light, it would take time for the vehicles to clear up before the fire engines can from the fire stations. Now, in future, how will you deal with that issue? How can you make sure it can take the transport situation into consideration? Because there's often traffic congestion in the Wan Chai area. In fact, it may even extend to Central and further. So do you have any plans for that? Mr. Ryan Kwok, Assistant Director, please. Well, thank you for your suggestions or comments. As said, the new site is quite close to the Kong Wan Fire Station. Whether it's a new fire station come ambulance depot or a reprovisioning project, as said earlier, we would conduct a simulation to make sure we can perform at the same level. And with the assignment system, the background algorithm would dictate that the closest firefighting resources will be deployed to the site of a fire incident. So, in response to the traffic situation and the geographical location, the system would assign the right resources to the site of fire incident. I think we should take the factor of traffic congestion because this mission is very important. We're trying to save lives. So when you are driving on the road, would you make sure, say, all the lights are synchronized to make sure you would drive smoothly to the site of fire incident? Well, we also have a system with the highways department. As said earlier, the computations of the assignment system would have the closest firefighting resources deployed to the site of fire incidents. And when vehicles leave fire stations, the system would have the route set up, and the lights on that route will be turned to green to make sure we can get to the site as quickly as possible. Thank you. Next, Mr. Dennis Leung. I want to ask about paragraph 3. Now, the project was first announced in the 2017 policy to redevelop the sites for hotel and grade A offices. And I want to ask if there is any difference between then and the idea now. Well, because most of the buildings in Wan Chai are commercial now. Do you still need that many hotels? Or would you perhaps consider constructing another structure on top of the Convention and Exhibition Center to make best use of the site? Also, it is said that the public open space and a community life support training center would be provided. I want the open space to be special. If you incorporate special elements, say make it into a photo taking spot, you may help tell good stories of the fire services department. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Well, it is still under consideration, but as I would agree with what you said, during the pandemic, of the industry because there are now virtual platforms. However, over the past 6 months, we can see that there are physical CNE visitors. According to the report, over 85% of the interviewees actually has demonstrated, believe the COVID-19 has demonstrated the importance of face-to-face exhibitions. So we expect that there is still now. As for the design, which levels are to be used for grade A buildings, which levels are to be used for convention exhibition, we will have report to the Legislative Council when we have more information. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Regarding the second question, the design of the public open space. Well, I'll provide more information on that. Right now, there is a tree of particular interest outside the fire station. We are planning to retain the tree, which is why we're making that space into a public open space. We'll take note of your suggestion, Mr. Leung, but we can't make any promises at the moment. Sorry, I have a follow-up question. Now, with the design, very often trees will be affected, say in Fanling. The new cultural center of the LCSC, the whole layout is affected by the tree, but apparently that tree came out of nowhere. Do you really have to retain that tree, or do you have to retain the tree in Wan Chai by extension? Because I think if you do not have to retain a tree, I think you can have a better layout. I'll convey your suggestions to my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Leung. Next, Dr. Wendy Hong. I also support the proposal because it would release more land for the expansion of the Convention Exhibition Center. Kong Wan Fire Station is very close to the CNE Center, and I believe it would create a synergy effect. I think since the resumption of normal travel, there is a great rebound for physical exhibitions. I think it will soon get back to the pre-pandemic levels. However, before the pandemic, there has already been a great shortage. And in Kowloon Bay, because they are reprovisioning the site, we'll have one less venue. I think we need to do more in terms of locating supply for land for CNE industry. Now, it is said that you will ask for funding in Q4 of this year. From my calculations, only in 2027 the fire station will be vacated. Do you have any plans for when the new buildings or structures will be ready? So this initiative was first raised in 2017, so it would take at least 10 years. Is there any room for compressing the procedure or the construction so that the developments can be provided as soon as possible? It was said also that the Fleet Arcade has special significance, and in accordance provided by the Antiquities and Monuments Board, certain elements will be retained. Can you provide us with information about the direction that they are taking? Is it the case that you would put information about the Fleet Arcade there, or information about the redevelopment, so that the public will be more aware of the history of the Fleet Arcade? Well, in relation to the schedule, when we're talking about the whole Wan Chai North project, there are 9 parts to it. And we have already been preparing for the moving out, and the fire station is the last one. In 2026, we can move the court and other facilities. And as you said, this can only be done in 2027 for the fire station. Now, once the structures have been demolished, it would still take time for the construction of new structures. It is only in 2034 that we can complete the redevelopment. So after demolition, we would need 7 additional years. Why do we need that long? It is because for the 3 tall buildings, it would take 1 to 2 years to demolish them. And in our new design, of course, it has to be finalized in our new design. However, the CEC would have 5 basement levels. We therefore have to conduct excavation works. And for other structural works or works of tall buildings, it would take 5 to 5.5 years to complete. That's why we would need 7 additional years after 2027 to complete the whole project. As for what Wendy said about what elements to be retained for Fenwick Pier, in October of 2022, the AMO has released a report, and in relation to the Fleet Arcade, there are certain elements to be retained, including metal railings and so on. These will be moved to the Commercial Economic Development Bureau after demolition, and we'll see where we will display them in Wan Chai in future. So we'll report on that once we have more details. Next, Mr. Dennis Leung speaking for the second round. Again, I'm very concerned about the tree because I think it's not just about retaining the tree. You also have to think about the foundation. If the tree would affect the overall layout of your structure or your design of your structure, I hope the administration would reconsider retaining the tree, because I think there are ways to relocate or replant the trees. Now, it is said that the project would take $1,310.3 million. Can you explain to the public what is the difference between this and other projects so that the public will be more aware?
Transplanting the tree. Yes, as I said just now, I will relay the views of Mr. Leung to the relevant department. And as for the construction cost, can I defer to the ASD? Thank you, Mr. Leung, for your views. I'm from ASD. On the construction cost, now, not long ago, we got funding approval for Lok Ma Chau and a fire station, and the average cost was 40,000 odd per square meters, but this time is 36,000 per square meters. So the cost is lower than that of a recently approved fire station. Now, it's because the floor area is larger, and then you work out the unit cost for us. Is that right? In fact, the floor area of the two is similar. For this project, the cost is $1.3 billion, and for the Lok Ma Chau project is $1.1 billion with a similar floor area. So the average cost is comparable. It's not that the project is particularly sizable, leading to a lower unit cost. All right. If there are no further questions, I'll now put this item to the vote because this is a funding item. I'd like to ask whether there is any objection for this paper to be submitted to the PWSC for its consideration. No objection, so we all agree. Thank you very much. Item number 5, AOB. Do we have any AOB items? If not, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.